Get in the know. Nonstop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Do you think you guys would have matched up well against the Colts if you got to the Super Bowl?
I think we would have smashed them because, I know preseason, but, we had a little one quarter in the game, but, we came in the preseason that year. Their starters we were like, all right, we're playing, one series, whether it's 15 plays or that. I think we came out, it was like 3 plays, an incomplete, 2 sacks, and we were gone.
Yeah.
We were gone. We were licking our chops. I think, we just knew, obviously Peyton's a beast in his own right. But, we just knew when we got to that level, it wasn't going to be, I think our defense matched that offense well.
I 100% agree with Jared Allen. If the Vikings had made it past the Saints in 2009, they would have won that Super Bowl. I think they would have. Who knows what the score? I think they would have won that game fairly decisively against that Colts team.
That Colts team is not that good. And I think in 98 that there's a good chance that they don't beat the Broncos. I think in 2009, I'm equally as confident that they beat the Colts.
Yeah. So that was from All Things Covered, the Patrick Peterson podcast, which is it's good stuff. He's constantly bringing on teammates and former Vikings and stuff, so you can check that out. A little plug for Patrick Peterson's podcast. This is Purple Daily. This is our podcast. Phil Mackey, Judd Zolgad, our executive producer, Declan Goff, presented by Surly Brewing Company. And boys, this is daily Vikings entertainment with one mission statement. We want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we all die. TCL is the TV of choice and the entertainment platform of choice for us here on this show. And it's one of the world's best-selling consumer electronic brands. New lineup of award-winning TVs delivering the most entertainment with stunning resolution at an affordable cost. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. Are you guys ready? Are you ready?
Let's go.
For comments from YouTube edition here, the Purple Daily YouTube comment section. We love the community. Even when you guys rip on us, we love it. We can take it. And we appreciate all of your questions, feedback, and everything. So we pull questions and comments from the Purple Daily YouTube comment section every single week, and we dive in. Starting with this is just we'll get to some other stuff, including Garrett Bradbury here. But Robert Goodman with a great little anecdote. He says, I was in the stands for that 1977 San Francisco game. We talked about the greatest comeback in Vikings history.
Oh, yeah.
It had a feel of a temperature of like -2 degrees, and my hands and feet were frostbitten when 2-minute Tommy Kramer came into the game. By the time the victory was in hand, my heart was beating so fast that not only was I not cold anymore, but I also had to unzip my coat so I wouldn't sweat. It was there that I learned that I didn't need a fire to warm up, but just a good old-fashioned come-from-behind Vikings victory. Now, let the Vikings win a Super Bowl before I die.
And you'll never be cold again at a Vikings home game.
And it has nothing to do with whether they come back or not. It's because U.S. Bank Stadium is much more luxurious than the old Metropolitan Stadium back in the day. That's a great anecdote, Robert. Thank you for sharing the fact that you were at that game, the greatest comeback in Vikings history in '77. That's some good fan cred for you. Michael LaGuarri says, Judd, how has Garrett Bradbury looked this preseason in pass protection?
You know what? He has looked, I think the appropriate word is, much like the folks that sponsor this show, surly. I told you before, he has started, so he and Armin Watts got in a fight last week. He had another dust-up at the beginning of camp as well, and it's very hard to break it down and say, well, his pass pro moves have really, I've seen a lot in his pass protection moves.
Yeah.
But it's very, he's not a dumb dude, and I think it's very clear that this is a make or break season for a first-round pick who's been good in run blocking, but when it comes to pass protection has been relocated far too often by bigger dudes.
Yes.
So I think my description of how he looks, being completely honest and saying it's not like I'm breaking down interior offensive line play in practice, would be he's looked surly. He's looked like he is a guy who is he's intent on going down with at least a fight, which is good. That's good.
I mean,
I don't know if it's going to work, but it's
the
good.
last 2 years, Pro Football Focus has had him as the worst pass blocking center in the NFL, 2019 and again in 2020.
Yep.
So it's a real thing. I mean, if he can just be serviceable or average, it changes the scope of this offense. If they can get Garrett Bradbury to be just not a disaster in pass protection, and if Oli Udoh can be a huge jump, now, again, doesn't need to be a Pro Bowler. If he can just be a huge jump on Drew Samia and Dakota Dozier, this offensive line takes a huge leap forward in pass protection, and then it helps Kirk and the offense and play calling and pretty much anything and everything. But it's got to start with Bradbury.
And if you believe the old sports cliche in practice that iron sharpens iron, he is going against Pierce and Tomlinson now, which is a really good challenge. I mean, Michael Pierce is huge. Tomlinson's really big himself, but if practice can help you, he is now going against the type of guys that he's going to face who are considered upper echelon.
And those guys, and in practice, he was going up against a lot of sort of second string caliber players last year.
Stephan, yeah, exactly.
But my comeback to you would be Dalvin Tomlinson and Michael Pierce are more run stuffing interior defensive linemen.
Yep.
Sheldon Richardson is a guy that gets pressures up the middle, but those guys aren't known for getting a ton of pressures up the middle. So in the pass protection, how much is it really helping? Because he's decent as a run blocker.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's helping a bit, though. Here's the one thing that I think starting September 12th, you can keep an eye on. Michael Pierce is far more mobile than I thought. Like, I thought this is a guy who's going to stand there like Ted Washington and Grady Jackson and Jerry Ball did and just be big.
Yeah.
He actually can. I'm not saying he's great, but I'm saying he can move far more than I thought. So, but I just think the whole thing, the starting point with Bradbury is you can't be relocated as often as he's been, right? Like this. And I don't know, it might not be possible. He might just be a bust. But the starting point also has to be the mentality and your ability to not have a big guy basically grab you and move you.
Yeah.
And that to me, at its most embarrassing times, has been Garrett Bradbury is being relocated by these huge guys.
The other thing too is I want to find this real quick here. We do sometimes tend to sort of overstate how much pressure some of these players allow. Garrett Bradbury only allowed 26 official pressures last year, according to Pro Football Focus, yet he was one of the worst pass protectors in the league. So, like, a pressure and a half per game is not that, so we sit here and talk about how garbage the Vikings offensive line is. As garbage as it is, the pocket is still clean on, like, half or more of the throws.
Yep.
So I don't want. Some people make it sound like every single time there's a pass play, it's like, all right, let's pump the brakes a little bit on that narrative. But Bradbury needs to get his bleep together. Hopefully, he's working on that in whatever time they get in their preseason game. All right, Rebel Viking 912 on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. The fans in Minnesota accept mediocrity. That's why the Vikings disappoint year after year. People are so happy with just winning the division, which means nothing in my book. There doesn't seem to be any anger by the fan base when the Vikings underachieve. Now, he's painting with a really broad brush there, because I think there's a lot of fans that are frustrated with not having won a Super Bowl. There's also a lot of fans that are just sort of, hey, if you say anything negative about the team, then you're not a true fan, right? So it's tough to paint with a broad brush. But in general, do you feel like there's too much acceptance of mediocrity among Minnesota sports fans and Vikings fans?
Absolutely, yes. So I think that there are some very passionate, demanding fans. And I think, thankfully, they basically come to our show. So our base, I'm probably not talking to the base of fans who watch and or consume our podcast. But yes, I think that there's definitely been, and to go back, this was set up by people in our business. There's definitely been an acceptance of mediocrity, that if you don't accept it, you're not a true fan and you're somehow being disloyal. When I think the ultimate loyalty is to demand a team that wins. It's incredible when you go back and think that this team has not been to a Super Bowl since I was 7 years old. They've never won one. They've been around since 1961. They have always been, for the most part, since 1967, successful. Like, they've had a lot of great years. No Super Bowl wins. No appearances since the 70s. So yes, I think that there is a definite acceptance, and there is a need among some in this town to defend teams, when really that's not the goal. The goal is not to defend the teams. The goal is to get the teams to be as successful as possible.
Yeah, and I think where I personally view like the best, most sweetest spot of sports fandom is you definitely want good things to happen. You hope that good things happen. You can feel the joy when good things happen. But if a team isn't, especially after a certain amount of time, if they're not living up to the expectation, doesn't mean you have to like call for heads and whatnot. But applying pressure does work more than some people think when it comes from fans and media. Front offices and ownership groups do hear and feel pressure. And so I think that's where we kind of come from on this show, which is let's not be afraid to hold this franchise, which you said has been a largely winning franchise for 60 years. Let's not be afraid to hold them to a high standard. And that's what we like to do on this show, which is it's a compliment to the Vikings to say, hey, we think it's Super Bowl time here. There might be some years we have to take a step back, but we think it's Super Bowl time. A comment off the back of that one, Ryan Sullivan says, the Vikings are one of 4 teams to not go to the Super Bowl in the last 25 years. Is that true? There's only 4 teams?
Well, Cleveland Browns, Detroit Lions.
In the last 25?
Last 25 years. Jaguars, Vikings.
I don't know, the Bills, they're on the cusp.
I guess he's counting Bill. Let's go back to the early 90s then. Well, the Texans haven't been, but they're new in 2002.
So 30 years would make more sense because then the Bills are in there for sure.
The Texans make it 5.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Still,
the Vikings are far and away of all those teams we just mentioned the most successful. I don't know if now that the Capitals won a Stanley Cup in the NHL, I don't know if you can name another franchise in any of the 4 major men's professional sports that's been as successful as the Vikings have, but has yet to win the championship.
Yep, I think
so.
You're
It's
right.
like they're right there. I mean, the Utah Jazz are probably in that conversation in the NBA.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Astros won the World Series. They cheated, but they were in that mix for a while. So
No,
it has been a successful franchise, but to even be in the same discussion as like the Lions and the Browns for that is just.
And I think we should. And I think as a fan base, we should pick and choose who we defend a little bit more. Like we defend a lot of people and coaches, and it's like, okay, that type of respect should be paid to very few. I mean, there are some Hall of Fame folks. Don't get me wrong, but like we defend, it's like Kirk Cousins, leave Kirk alone. Well, why? He makes a ton, and he's your quarterback. And it's weird. I think the things that we do that are incredibly fair is we had at least 2 really good conversations this week about Mike Zimmer and what he's done and what he hasn't done. And nobody called for him to be fired, but you've got to have, I mean, those are the exact discussions that the people that own the Vikings have. And it doesn't mean that I think the problem here is people hear us talking about Zimmer and they're like, you want to fire him, don't you? It's like, no, but to have the team be as successful as possible, you've got to examine your warts too.
RU21 says, Judd's the type of guy to have his steak well done with a baked potato doused in ketchup. And if there's a little pink in his steak, he puts it in the microwave.
No. Medium rare. I am the exact opposite.
The baked potato part seems
the
spot
baked potato
on. And the ketchup part.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Did you put ketchup on steak?
You know what? No. If it's good, never.
Okay.
If it's good.
Oh, dude, if you get a tough steak, I'm putting whatever I can on that sucker. But Don's found a place, I think it's Aldi, to get steaks, and I know that sounds like weird, but they're really good.
Yeah.
And they're juicy. No ketchup there. Baked potatoes I love, but they don't really have taste.
So he's wrong on the well done steak part.
Yeah, the well done thing.
Just to clarify.
I guess I could see the confusion there because I look like I might be a well done type of guy, but no, medium rare is my way to go.
Doyle Schubert says, does the guy on the left speak or is he just a prop?
He talks all the time.
He's a prop.
Why do people say that about Declan?
He doesn't talk all the time, but he
talks.
Declan is the executive producer of Score North's. He runs Score North Social. He runs Purple Daily, Maggie and Judd. He does some hosting, Judd's Hockey Show, but he's doing a lot of behind-the-scenes things.
Yeah, he's doing things while we're doing.
He talks less than we do because we just blab.
Yeah,
sure.
But I mean,
it's their show, guys. People need to understand. It's Mackie and Judd. It's Mackie and Judd, and then there's Purple Daily.
And
Rare
Declan
show.
is working to become the ampersand in Mac.
Yeah, and I'm working to become the ampersand. I have a contract negotiation that wrinkle I have to figure out. Yes.
His little head. Just
Hello, I'm Declan Goff. Like to be the ampersand.
If you watch the show enough, though, you get the roles, okay?
Veronica Zeffirino says, I'll provide all the surly needed to get Judd to say nothing but positive things for one entire episode. What would it take for you just to be a homer and just... Well, you do Purple Positivity Thursday, so...
I'll tell you right now, that's a great question. A Super Bowl run, a Super Bowl appearance. You get to the Super Bowl this year, and I will give you 2 weeks going in. I mean, I'm not saying I won't. See, I guess this comes down to what do you consider to be.
I feel like you'll
negative?
bash the Vikings at comparing them to the team they're going to face, though. You're
but
then you're going to compare Kirk to Pat Mahomes for 2 weeks, and you're just going to rip Kirk.
That's not true.
I'm gonna call your bluff here.
That's not true. But I mean, do you consider it to be negative to talk about the contrast of teams? Because then yes, that could be. But you go to a Super Bowl, it's going to be very positive.
I think if the Vikings line up with the Chiefs and you get 2 weeks of Judd, it needs to be full on. The Chiefs are overrated. Pat Mahomes is overrated. Kirk Cousins is a Hall of Famer. That's the type of tone that we're going to need from you.
No. You got to pick up your FM radio to find that talk. I feel like since we started doing this show too, I think when Mackie and Judd started, there was much more of a line of Phil being a homer probably and a bit more positive. But one, you've aged. Two, sports in this town beat you up. And so now
true.
I feel like it's very, but I mean, I don't think
you're still more salty than I am.
I'm more salty, but I feel like it's a lot closer.
I'm much more likely to jump on a positive thing and think that it's oh my God. I mean, look, I chug Timberwolves Kool-Aid every morning when I wake up.
Your Wolves, I'd remove the Wolves completely because that's your North Stars. But if you take the Wolves out, you go Twins, Vikings, Wild to a certain degree.
My reaction with the Vikings is guarded optimism. It's always guarded optimism because I know how I have felt multiple times when I have let that guard down, much like almost everyone else.
Yep. I feel like the shift for you didn't come from the show or me. I feel like you shifted a lot when Blair Walsh missed the field goal and you came into work and said, I said he was going to miss.
Yeah. No, Blair Walsh definitely shook me.
Different.
The Twins have shaken me a couple times against the Yankees. I have felt shook. Veronica does say she'll provide all the surly needed for Judd if he can just be positive. I got a feeling Judd probably doesn't need help getting surly at this point.
Veronica, guess what I got right here? That's right. Six pack, surly furious. Yeah. So here's the thing, okay? Furious is great because good or bad, it makes you happy. Now, drink responsibly, of course. I don't want, never drink and drive, be responsible. But I'm just telling you right now, it's the weekend. And
tell you something, brother.
And you're thinking to yourself, it's the weekend. What am I going to do? What am I going to drink? Surly Furious. It's my beer. Tweet me your pictures, your mugs, the shots of the cases of Surly at Jay Zolgad.
Show us your cans.
Show us. Because you, ladies and gentlemen, do enough settling in life, and you Minnesota sports fans do for sure. Crack open a Surly's.
I'm excited to get a Furious in at the Minnesota State Fair. I'm also excited.
Nice.
Cheap plug here as well. Trevor Plouffe partnered with Surly Brewing, and he has a Grip and Rip IPA at my former stomping grounds, the Ballpark Cafe, where I was employed for my youth, that I'm also excited to try from our friends at Surly Brewing.
Nice.
So wait. So Plouffe has a beer?
He partnered with Surly Brewing, yeah. The Grip and Rip
I got phone
IPA.
Right here. I'm gonna be texting people shortly because
yeah.
Plouffe
Get
has a
some
beer.
sources.
Zolgad gets a beer. Okay.
We're getting a Zolgad beer.
Nobody loves Surly more than Zolgad.
The Zolgad. I can't wait for the Zolgad beer from Surly Brewing.
Let me finish the end of the tagline because the people from Surly when I give the tagline and I like to make them happy. Crack open a Surly Furious and enjoy the IPA that revolutionized Minnesota craft beer. Don't settle, get surly, and demand that Zolgad Surly very soon.
Also a shout out to Pig Approved Barbecue. So we're coming up quickly on tailgate season, college football. There's some games trickling in this weekend, NFL season in a couple weeks, regular season. So if you're looking for something in the Twin Cities, a place to really pull through in the clutch for you from a tailgate perspective, we're talking about brisket, pork, Oh, yeah.
It's so good.
Spare ribs.
Oh.
All their meat is locally sourced and premium, 100% wood smoked. They're off 1237 Larpenteur, or you can just go online at pigapprovedbarbecue.com. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, brother.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just say, boys, I have heard rumblings from in my house about a certain very significant Gopher football tailgate that might need some help. And so I might have suggested to the lovely Dawn, Pig Approved is the place to go. This is one of the bigger tailgates, too.
Not going to be disappointed.
I think we're going to work on that. So Pig Approved will be on the U of M campus.
Let's see here. Robert Centifanti says, Declan, on behalf of all the bozos that you ripped earlier in the week, quote unquote, I want to say, please calm down. I know you reject this, but the fact is, this is the preseason. What you see in these games is not a reflection of the actual team you will see in a real regular season game. The Packers are 0-2. Houston's 2-0. Do you believe these results will reflect what these teams will look like in the regular season? Every year, the media and the fans seem to forget it doesn't mean anything, and they flip out again and again. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I know it's preseason. I know the Lions went 4-0. I know the Vikings have yet to score a single touchdown. So, yeah, why would I be not concerned about that at all? But last year when they get off to a 1-5 start and then they rebound and they tease me, only then to fall on their face again in December, yeah, I'm going to remember if they get off to a slow start again this year. And they can't afford for that to happen. So I am panicking. I am panicking over this Vikings offense.
It's hilarious. I will say I can definitely hear Declan every time he, comes out of his little studio. The panic alarm is just blaring and sounding. I'm mostly with Robert here. Yes, the Vikings have looked offensively absolutely terrible in the preseason, but they've only played starters for a short amount of time. The starter series did not go well either. I don't think it matters. I legitimately don't. Now, if Rashad Hill is playing left tackle for more than like 2 weeks, I think they got problems.
Yep.
But I'm just going to sit back and let the thing play out. You can't judge what you see unless Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook are heavily involved. If those guys aren't heavily involved, it's really, really hard to get a read on what this offense can or can't do. So it's kind of where I'm at.
Little plug, scorenorth.com right now. I addressed that exactly. Not of going into the Vikings final preseason game. What are the storylines that must be? Nothing that we see or saw in the Vikings last preseason game is going to be like, oh, that's the difference. Yes, scoring touchdowns is nice because it gives you a little bit of confidence, perhaps. But there's three things that I think we will not know until we get to September 12th. One is Cousins training camp, and I'm not talking about 3 series against the Colts, Phil. Cousins training camp, it's like I want to see him be sharper against the Bengals, so I don't care what he did against the Chiefs. The second thing is what you just said, Rashad Hill, because Riley Reif was good last year, and Rashad Hill is a backup. And nothing that Reif does in preseason, or I'm sorry, that Hill does in preseason games is going to be the official, oh my God, he played great there. And then the last thing, and this is one that I think we need to start exploring a little bit more because it's a very Purple Daily talker getting ahead of things. Clint Kubiak.
Yeah.
Kevin Stefanski had the advantage in his first year as OC of having Gary Kubiak as a sounding board right there. Now, yes, Gary is Clint's father, but Gary's retired on his Houston farm. And I'm not trying to say that Clint Kubiak's not going to be good, but I am trying to say this is a big job. You're calling plays in the heat of a game. So Those are the 3 things that starting in Cincinnati, I'm really curious to see how they look.
I would say, there are legitimate questions about Adam Zimmer, if he's going to call plays, and Clint Kubiak. A lot of people have cried nepotism, and I think if you just go, with the question of would those guys be in the positions that they're in if they weren't sons of Mike Zimmer and Gary Kubiak this early in their they're in their early 30s, both those dudes, right?
Yeah,
they're not.
34.
So the answer is no. Now that doesn't mean that Kyle Shanahan wouldn't have gotten jobs at a young age if it wasn't for Mike Shanahan. But Kyle Shanahan is amazing as a coach. So just because you're the beneficiary of some sort of push up the ladder and nepotism more quickly doesn't mean that you're not qualified or competent enough. But those are, Clint Kubiak, definitely not a proven offensive coordinator. So
No.
we'll have to see how this thing shakes out.
And that's a tough job. And Mike is not an easy guy to work for. So I'm just saying we shouldn't. I think it's fair to say this. September 12th, if Jefferson, Thielen, and Cook play, they're all really good. Okay.
Yeah.
So the assumption is they're good. But when it comes to Kubiak's play calling, Hill especially, we can't just assume it'll all be fine. That's where assumptions are dangerous.
Yeah. Shout out to the Minnesota Lottery. So the Minnesota State Lottery is unveiling 2 Vikings scratch game tickets. Judd's got them right there if you're watching on our YouTube channel. Show the holographic one. It's pretty badass.
This is
pretty
really
cool.
nice.
You may have won $100,000 and
I have
just
no
don't
idea
know
yet.
how to don't know how to read the.
I
comments.
am
That's the
full
problem.
disclosure. I'm going to wait till Dawn gets home to make sure I do this right.
Did we just win $100,000, honey? Not sure. The $5 game
can buy a lot of shoes.
Can win you up to $100K. Why are there 43,000 Amazon boxes outside our house?
Why did we just get a truck of wine and shoes delivered to our house?
The $2 game can win you up to $15,000. Say, I'm in to Viking scratch games from the Minnesota Lottery. You must be 18 or older to play. Also, for all you golfers out there, Declan and I love to hit it around and shoot 100. We love golf. PXG Minneapolis is a golfer's paradise. It's a pretty badass place. They got these Gen 4 clubs. Those are probably a little bit out of my game's reach. Those are the best clubs that PXG has ever made. They also have the 0 to 11 clubs priced a little bit more within reach and tons of great apparel. So PXG Minneapolis in Southdale Center, and find out more, pxg.com/Minneapolis. A couple more here real quick. Footed Bill says, as much as I disagree with you guys, I appreciate the content. I just want to say this is my favorite comment of all of the comments this week. Because it shows you that in America today, and among Vikings fans and media today, we can have different viewpoints on how to run this football team and what this football team's path to success can and should be. We can have different viewpoints, respect each other, and all congregate in the same community here on Purple Daily. And Footed Bill, with this comment, I think has encapsulated that spirit. We can disagree, we can argue, we can fight. We can all come together and enjoy the season and enjoy the community that is Purple Daily. So thank you, Footed Bill.
Do we make you think, and do you make us think? Because that's all that matters.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. And then Jake Fez says, we might not all agree on this, by the way. Have we not connected the dots that maybe Everson Griffen said Kirk Cousins was ass, not because Cousins' play is ass, but as a guess, Cousins is an ass because he didn't take a pay cut for Everson to stick around the first time? Do you think Everson's beef with Cousins is more, why aren't you taking a pay cut? Or is it just that he doesn't play very well?
I love that, but I think when Kirk pushed the money so Kirk did take the extension, helped the Vikings out immediately. And was that for 2020?
It was for 2020, yeah.
And so he did take a pay cut.
And they still didn't bring Everson back.
And Griffen got out of the contract. So he met a sack and playing time quota.
Yeah.
And had the opportunity to void the contract, which he now admits he shouldn't have, and he did. No, but I think where that's interesting is I think he's on to something. I think it might have way more to do with what he thinks of Kirk beyond his play.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
I think so too. Yeah. I think there's also there's a lot of people that are just trying to brush this thing under the rug. Kirk Cousins tried to brush it under the rug. It's definitely a thing. Don't pretend like it's not a thing.
Well, they talked last January, Phil. There's no problems now.
Yeah. No, it's a thing. I didn't love that. I think Kirk kind of dismissed the question. It's like, dude, no, like one of the best players in recent Vikings history definitely doesn't like you. Let's talk about it. It's okay.
I'm going to give you right now the uncomfortable fake Judd smile. We're tight.
Oh man.
The cheeky grin.
And by the way, it's a bad smile. My fake smile is as bad or worse than Kirk's.
That was a pretty good smile. You definitely struggle to smile in photos, as you've talked about.
I hate smiling in photos.
Why is Judd looking like an 1800s Civil War soldier in all of his photos, just straight faced? Because he doesn't like smiling in photos.
Don't like smiling in photos. It's fake. Looks weird.
Oh, man. If you're a business owner, you'll smile because you've got the protection of Federated. Federated's been around for over 100 years helping business owners in the Twin Cities and beyond. And they can help you sleep better at night with risk management resources and tools like MyShield. Find out more about Federated and the great work they're doing with businesses at federatedinsurance.com. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. All right, boys, that's a wrap here on the Comments from YouTube edition of Purple Daily. Thank you all, even the mannequin on the left, Declan
Thank
Goff,
you.
our executive producer.
I was a puppet.
Our prop.
Yep, your prop.
All right, see you guys.
Later.